Reaching for TPAC, Examining Technology Integration in a Middle School Classroom. I'm Jill Kelly. This action research project reports on the work and use of the TPAC framework in my middle school social studies classroom. I found that much of the research on TPAC has focused on pre-service teachers, while little research has been conducted to investigate the use of the TPAC framework during in-service teachers actually teaching in their classroom. The purpose of this action research study is to investigate my use of the TPAC framework to guide my teaching. TPAC is a conceptual framework that was developed to understand the dynamics of successful technology integration in the classroom. While educational technology has been accepted as a way to increase student motivation, research has found that the actual teaching strategies used by teachers can determine the success of technology integration in the classroom. Identifying evidence of TPAC in my own teaching practices will assist me in increasing my own understanding of this framework. While I understand the theoretical implications of the TPAC framework, I find it difficult to describe and operationalize the framework to other educators because of its complexity. I feel that to be successful in helping other teachers effectively develop their TPAC skills, I must be able to identify TPAC skills that a teacher uses in the classroom setting. By studying my own teaching tendencies, I hope to shed light on how teachers might develop and then enact TPAC in their classrooms. My research questions for this project are: how does a middle school social studies teacher apply the TPAC framework in a current event lesson using the Web 2.0 tool VoiceThread? My second question was, what are the student perceptions of using VoiceThread in a current event lesson? The members of my research project were myself. I am my district's K through 12 talented and gifted coordinator. As the talented and gifted coordinator, I teach two social studies classes in the middle school, and they are part of the talented and gifted program. These classes are 7th grade and 8th grade. The students that I teach in these classes range between 12 and 14 years old. 54 or 59% of the students were female, 41 male. Because this is part of the talented and gifted program in the middle school, these students are either all identified as talented and gifted and or scored in the top 15% of the school-wide reading assessments over the past 2 years. I also asked our technology coach for the district if she would assist me in collecting data during the action research project. Our technology coach agreed, and she observed 4 social studies lessons. She took field notes. She completed the technology integration assessment rubric, and she interviewed participating students. To prepare for this action research project, I sought the approval from my middle school principal and the superintendent to conduct this research in my social studies class. They both consented and gave me permission to conduct this research as well as collect and analyze the data for this project. Several forms of data collection were used during this research project, as shown on my triangulation matrix here. The triangulation matrix is organized by each research question asked in the research project. To answer the first research question, how a middle school social studies teacher applies the TPAC framework in a current event lesson using the Web 2.0 tool VoiceThread. The technology coach observed and took field notes of myself teaching in the classroom. She also filled out the technology integration assessment rubric. This rubric is an instrument that was designed to assess the quality of technology integration in an observed lesson. In addition, each lesson was video recorded, and I transcribed the video, viewed it, and coded it. I also filled out the technology integration assessment rubric, and that was to triangulate the data, and so everything was not self-assessed. That's the technology coach helped me um, get a third-party view of what was happening in the classroom. With the technology integration assessment rubrics, I took my rubric and the technology coach and compared the data. The technology coach interviewed the students. The qualitative data that was coded and it was guided by the TPACK components and the purpose of the study. The student interviews and survey comments were also transcribed and coded, searching for commonalities in student responses. Finally, student work was examined. To answer the research questions, the findings were organized around the components of the TPACK framework: pedagogical content knowledge, technological content knowledge, and the interaction of all the TPACK parts. For the second question, what are student perceptions of the VoiceThread in the current event lesson? I created 2 surveys. The first survey was a baseline survey, and that was the student's perception of a pen and pencil current event assignment. It was a traditional current event assignment that I used. And I compared that survey information with the VoiceThread student survey that measured the intervention current event assignment using the Web 2.0 tool VoiceThread. The surveys focused on student perceptions of each current event assignment. There were a variety of survey questions responses. 2 were answered on a Likert scale, 2 were yes-no answers, and the rest were short answer. The Likert scale and the yes-no responses were compared using quantitative measures, and the short answers were coded with the qualitative data to determine commonalities and themes based on the research questions. My findings. Findings for the first question. I coded the information in video recordings with the TPACK framework in mind. The diagram shows where the code fits into the TPACK framework. During the lesson, the interplay between pedagogy, content, and technology was apparent as students worked on their VoiceThread. Students used technology to research, create, and share their current events. Through the use of constructivism instructional strategies, the students were given an opportunity to collaborate, reflect, and communicate information and ideas. Learning was transformed from students as mindless consumers of knowledge to students who were being encouraged to become critical consumers of the information in their world. Effective teaching strategies were identified for the meaningful integration of VoiceThread in a current event lesson. And as you look at this diagram, it shows the technology knowledge, the pedagogical knowledge, the coding that fell under that, the content knowledge were the standards, the encouragement of debate questions as they made their VoiceThread, and current event, the actual current event itself. And then the student created VoiceThread, the actual current event was the combination of all 3 elements. The data for my second question were both qualitative and quantitative. I coded the student interview responses and open-ended survey responses according to student engagement and motivation. The qualitative data also came from the surveys. Looking at the graphs, there was not a tremendous shift in the data between the 2 current event assignments. However, the shift was in favor of the VoiceThread current event. About 50% of the qualitative data also indicated an increase in student engagement during the VoiceThread current event assignment. There were a few variables that came into play that I feel may have interfered with student perception during the VoiceThread current event. The first was the hardware availability. For a couple of the days, we were in a computer lab without efficient cameras and microphones. And timing, this lesson, the second part of this lesson took place a few days before spring break. So those things may have affected the outcomes of question number 2. I also included some of the qualitative data, student comments that showed that the VoiceThread helped their engagement and had positive perception. The first is on VoiceThread, we go deeper. VoiceThread is really your opinion rather than getting facts. And the second quote, VoiceThread keeps us more involved and makes us think harder than when we are doing it on paper. What next? The action plan. The findings in the study suggest that teachers should reflect on their classroom practices in order to incorporate technology into their teaching effectively. I would not have realized how my students felt without the survey and interview questions. Reflective practice can help teachers improve their knowledge of pedagogy and knowledge of students. Comparison studies between beginning and experienced social studies teachers, TPAC, may also allow technology coaches to better create group and individual professional development opportunities, focusing on improving teachers' TPAC. For the second question, I think it would be important to share or to compare student perception in this study with the similar studies done with once they have one-to-one devices, and also to continue doing these types of studies throughout the year. And so you don't have one particular time of year where the timing might be a variable. In conclusion, that is my action research study, and I think that this information has been very important in my role as a technology coach and instructional coach.